A lot of people have been freaking out about 3D Mario, for once not even really me. A lot of people think that just because Donkey Kong Bonanza is coming out that 3D Mario is not going to happen anytime soon. I see people in my comments literally saying that they think it's going to be years still, if that, until we see the next 3D Mario. I don't think this is the case, and I don't think just because Donkey Kong Bonanza is coming out or just because Donkey Kong Bonanza is made by the Odyssey team, that means that we're not getting a 3D Mario soon. I mean, it's a brand new shiny console. Of course Nintendo has a 3D Mario in the works, and I think Nintendo might have just hinted at what their plan was all along. Now, from the very beginning, there's been rumors suggesting that the Odyssey team was working on this Donkey Kong game. This was even before the Donkey Kong game was revealed. We were hearing these rumors, and we were hearing that the Odyssey team pretty much split into two, while one team went off to work on Donkey Kong and the other team went off to work on this brand new 3D Mario game. And this rumor seems like it's coming more true and true every single day. Real quick, before we get on with this video, thank you guys so much for subscribing as much as you did yesterday. Over 230 of you subscribed, so let's see how many we can get today, because we're still on our goal to 400,000 by the end of the year, which is going to be tight, but you guys can make it happen. So if you're excited about DK and you're just excited about Mario Kart World still and want to see more content on it, please just leave a like and subscribe, and let's see how many of you can do so today. But onto the video. Now, we actually have info about this from IGN, which was able to interview Kenta Modokuru, which is actually the producer of Donkey Kong Bonanza. Now, Kenta was actually the director of Super Mario Odyssey, so it seems like he was promoted to the head producer of Donkey Kong, which is interesting because we'll get into that in a second. But Kenta told IGN that the game began development cycles on Nintendo Switch 1. However, as the team developed the voxel technology that lies between Bonanza's destruction mechanic, it became clear that the best implementation of that tech would be on Nintendo Switch 2. Director Kazuya Takahashi continued the explanation by referencing something called continuity of destruction, essentially a philosophy behind Donkey Kong Bonanza where players are led to destroy a portion of the environment and receive a reward, which then reveals another area that can be destroyed for another reward, and so forth. Takahashi said the team felt they could expand on that philosophy on the Nintendo Switch 2. He then stated, "This allowed us to engage in creating a really extremely rich variety of materials and very large-scale changes in the environment on that new hardware. And when destruction is your core gameplay, one really important moment that we wanted to preserve was when a player looks at a part of the terrain and thinks, 'Can I break this?' Because that creates a very important surprise that he has a lot of impact for them, and that was something that was best done on Switch 2. But it's not really even just the processing power of the Switch 2 that I think attracted us and gave us some interesting possibilities. There was also the device itself that offered things like mouse control, which you can use in co-op play for a second player to control Pauline's vocal blast, or DK Artist, a mode where you can sculpt a large set of voxels. Now, what's interesting about this is Nintendo has had the same development path for almost every single Switch 2 title that's coming out. Like, it's very strange. They said the same exact thing for Mario Kart World, where it started off, of course, as a Switch 1 game, and then they had to rework things in order to bring it to Switch 2 because they just felt like there were so many things that they wanted to do with the game that the Switch 1 just couldn't handle. And obviously, being able to destroy terrain and environments in Donkey Kong Bonanza, you're going to need a lot more powerful of a console as well, so this game automatically would have to come to Switch 2. Now, it doesn't actually surprise me because from the very beginning, I felt it was weird that we never got an Odyssey 2. I mean, Mario Odyssey being year one in 2017, it felt like for sure Nintendo would give us a second 3D Mario, the same way they did with Breath of the Wild, and then a second one being Tears of the Kingdom. But it looked like they was going to do a Mario Odyssey and a Donkey Kong Bonanza that was going to be like a spiritual successor to Mario Odyssey on the Nintendo Switch 1. It just never happened in the time frame that they wanted to. That's why Donkey Kong Bonanza is now coming out at the beginning of the Switch 2. Funny enough, there's even more games that have the same situation going on, where Metroid Prime 4 was, of course, planned to be a Switch 1 game as it was announced almost 7 to 8 years ago. And Koei Tecmo themselves also state that Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment was also planned for Switch 1, obviously. I mean, this is a game that we were all expecting to come just like a year after Tears of the Kingdom, but obviously they wanted more horsepower behind their game, so they just moved it over to Switch 2. I think the only game coming out that we're not sure if it was planned for Switch 2 or not is Kirby Air Riders, which is pretty interesting. So we're just gonna have to wait until Sakurai gives us information about this game, if he had this planned for Switch 1, or was this always gonna be a Switch 2 game. But I'm getting off track. Now, why in the world is Kenta Modokuru being the producer of Donkey Kong Bonanza such a big deal? Well, like I said, he was the director of Super Mario Odyssey. Well, that's because Yoshiaki Koizumi has now pretty much been the main head of 3D Mario, as he was the main producer of Super Mario Odyssey. So if Koizumi is not the producer of Donkey Kong Bonanza, then what is he doing? Well, those rumors seem to be even more and more true. Yeah, he could have his own team that's working on the 3D Mario game this whole time. I think this is huge news. Micah from ProTendo on YouTube and Twitter stated something pretty interesting and gave some good facts about this as well, and stated, no, Koizumi is actually huge. The EPD8 split to work on DK rumor is starting to gain traction. Not sharing a producer with 3D Mario when producers largely stay consistent between a division's titles really pushes the idea that these are two massive and concurrent devved games. And he goes on to give some information about these teams and kind of their history and how they worked with games, as EPD5's Hisashi Nogami produced both New Horizons and Splatoon 3 just 2 years apart. EPD10's Takahashi Tezuka produced Mario Wonder and Pikmin 4, both dropping in 2023. If Koizumi isn't producing Bonanza, there's a good reason why. So you can probably see what we're getting at here. Odds are Koizumi is definitely working on the next 3D Mario, which is like super exciting. And you might say to yourself, no duh, obviously. But yeah, some people have been doubting it. They think just because we're getting a 3D Donkey Kong, that means Mario's just completely out of the question. I've been saying for a while now, I feel like this new 3D Mario was going to be something drastically different. Nintendo doesn't all too often make sequels of their 3D Mario games. I know Galaxy is the exception, and they were going to do one for 64, but it never happened. But still, I really expected Mario Odyssey, and when I saw Mario Odyssey wasn't coming after like 4 or 5 years, I started to think that Nintendo was already thinking bigger and greater with their next 3D Mario, and I still wholeheartedly believe it's going to be a massive open world experience, unlike we ever could have dreamed of. And I'm so excited for it, and I think that's exactly why we're still getting Donkey Kong Bonanza when we are. Because I think 3D Mario and Donkey Kong Bonanza are going to be so completely different that they work out well. You know, having Donkey Kong this year and 3D Mario next year might just be perfect, because one's going to be a massive open world, almost Breath of the Wild style game for Mario. I'm not saying in the sense of it just playing like Breath of the Wild, but just kind of being that new 3D Mario that completely changes the game, and I'm so here for it. And then taking that Odyssey formula and just incorporating it with Donkey Kong. But of course, I mean, once again, it's not a big surprise. I mean, most of us can probably conclude that 3D Mario is coming soon. It genuinely has to be. It wouldn't make sense if Nintendo was going 2 years into their brand new Switch console and still don't have a 3D Mario. I mean, we know Mario's 40th anniversary is coming up very soon. It's probably going to start celebration here in September, and we also know that the second Mario movie is coming out, I think, April of next year. So Nintendo's definitely going to want to coincide that with a new 3D Mario. I mean, they didn't really do so with the first movie, so I think the second movie lines up perfectly with this next 3D Mario, where we're definitely going to get some good stuff soon. But what do you guys think? Do you think this is any type of evidence that the 3D Mario is coming soon, that it's in perfect condition underneath Koizumi producing once again, or do you just think this is a bunch of bogus and none of this means anything? Let me know in the comments down below. Make sure you leave a like and subscribe before you head out, and like always, I hope you have a blessed day, and I'll see you all on the next one. See ya, guys.